Hi and welcome to the Andy Gorman Golf One Putt podcast, and we're here with our round two, hole three in effect, but a Masters special, starting with just the most incredible weekend's golf at Augusta without patrons. Gareth, you're here. You're not just in the wings, mate. You're visible on the screen for those of you watching us on YouTube. What was your thoughts, Gareth?
I enjoyed it. I think I got the Masters hype, the Masters bug the first 2 days. And then just because I think, if anything, how clinical DJ was over the last couple of days, my kind of attention wavered a little bit. I don't know if it was because he was on earlier. Maybe it kind of eats into kind of family time and in the middle of the day, really, because it was kicked off from that kind of 2 p.m. UK time and finished around about 8 o'clock in the evening, whereas usually you're gearing up for it into the wee small hours, aren't you, to be honest? So yeah, that was different, but I'm glad they got a tournament out. That was the main thing.
Yeah, I think what it's done is it's produced a closure for 2020. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of where we are. Personally, I think this weekend was kind of pivotal to get the 2020 season out of the way.
Yeah.
Albeit, like with the biggest event, arguably, of the start of the year being played right at the very end of the year, it did struggle to ignite the excitement button. But it's the Masters, and DJ was clinical, like you say, and extremely impressive. And hats off to him. Obviously, it was the Dechambeau sort of party that sort of flopped, in the first couple of days. And, I'm glad that he made the cut and at least got to the weekend. And whatever he's citing as to reasons why, there's plenty of things to discuss, as we will. But a huge congratulations to DJ. He played some incredible golf, as did Sungjae Im. What an incredible golfer he is. Unflappable. It's kind of what you'd expect, I suppose. But, without that being totally stereotypical. But, what an impressive ball striker. And it looks like he's going to fall over each time he swings the golf club with a big club.
And then somebody I know you've got an association with, Andy, as well, with Cam Smith in terms of the Back to Basics Pro-Pack putting mirror.
I was coming to that. Cam's golf, impressive. And look at that, 4 rounds of golf in the 60s, the first time ever in all the history of 84 Masters Championships. And of course, and he doesn't win. And, it's just like, what? But it also shows you just how impressive DJ's rounds were, 3 very, very impressive rounds in the 60s and deep, on two of them. But what a great final round, to pull that out of the bag and, to be 1 over par after 5 holes as well for that round. And, it's like, it's like, all right, come on then, toy in with me. It's like, come on, play. How close can you get? Boom, I'm off. It's like he had an extra gear all ready to go. It was like a bit like watching Lewis Hamilton.
Exactly.
And again, awesome. Congratulations. I love my F1, but 7 times world champion, the most accomplished driver in Formula One history. It's just incredible to watch. I don't know if you watched that, but talk about skating on thin ice and the state of the tyres at the end of that sort of very wet race. But it was a great weekend for sport, albeit it was only golf and Formula One. I don't think I could have fit any more in, to be honest with you. It was a family around as well.
What were your thoughts on DJ's putting stroke, Andy? Something I noticed, especially on the close-up angles, with the deliberate hovering of the putter before he took the stroke. What's the method behind that? And give us a little bit of an insight on why you would do that, and, to be honest, why you wouldn't do that as well.
It's a really good question at that trail. Why wouldn't you do it? And Nicholas did it, of course. Ricky Fowler does, and you wouldn't present a very strong argument if you said they weren't good putters. I think one of the things that it clearly gets DJ into a place where he can get the putter away smoothly. I think that's the key. And anytime you would hover the club, and it's right at the very end that he sort of lifts it and goes into his stroke. Look, it works. It is, and arguably part of his game that I would have said had all the hallmarks of this guy can't win majors because his putting is not strong enough, or he's not going to win the plethora that his long game and certainly now wedge play deserves. Shows you that how much work they've put into it. Whether it's just Claude and Butch that have done that, which tends to be the case. Certainly from a swing point of view and from a short game point of view, those guys have done an absolute dream of a job with him. Just over a decade, and I like the fact that that he's just plugged away, and obviously he's made his transition to Claude as Butch appears to be backing off. His coaching roles, and probably heading towards a long overdue retirement. It's kind of difficult when you enjoy it so much to retire, or even suggest that you are retiring. But I think it allows him to get into a smooth transition. That's really the key. So you get the putter off the ground, then for me, you can actually activate your bigger muscles to make the movements. I do think he gets a little tilted with the face potentially a little close to the plane, but he does the same on the way through. So the nice thing is, he starts the ball online very, very well, and his distance control is impeccable. I mean, apart from the putt on 4 yesterday, which was off the fringe, which the fringe caught him out, just killed it, finished about 8 foot short, didn't he? 8 to 10 foot short. And, then he dials in a phenomenal wedge shot to about 8 foot at 5, which gave him a really good look at par. He didn't really do anything wrong. And of course, the bounce back, I mean, it's quite, it's easy for me to say because, nobody listening was in my living room apart from Becky. But, I said, if he holds this putt on 6, then nobody's going to catch him. And, and interestingly, the conversation at the end, when Nick Doherty asked Butch, what do you think the pivotal point of the round was? And he said birdie at 6. And I kind of said exactly the same words at exactly the same time. And Becky just looked at me and she kind of like, is this on catch-up? Because, birdie at 6 was pivotal, having gone bogey, that he not just arrested the bogey train, but actually get some of it back and get his round back into, the right numbers again. And very, very much, his putting stroke was probably the key to, or certainly his putting was key to winning, but you can't say just the key to winning is putting, because his short game was just absolutely incredible. The up and down at 11, the birdies at 13 and 15, another wedge shot that he hits into 14, then a long range putt at 16. Is there anything else to say? But he's hitting the fairways. First few holes he missed the fairways, didn't he?
Yeah.
So as soon as he got the ball in play, from 8, I don't think he missed another fairway, if I can recall. And, that then means that the approach shot, if there was anything easy about Augusta, is that you can approach the greens from the fairway rather than from the second cut. Of course, we don't play from rough for Augusta. To be able to play those last 11 holes from the short grass was key, and that's it. If the ball's not in hand, it should be on the shortcut, and and that's what why he did extremely well all week. I mean, what was it, the third round he hit every fairway?
Yeah.
Which meant that he was able to put the pedal down, and attack the flags. Yeah, the greens were softer, of course they were. Pity really that with all of the rain they had on Thursday morning, we got a tournament in, completed on time. It was pretty spectacular, given the the shortness of daylight, and albeit had to cram the first 2 rounds into the first 2 days and a bit of Saturday morning. You know, it was it was just incredible to think that they were playing on a course that actually looked more than just presentable. You know, not Augusta that we used to see in, you know, the collar with the floor and fauna and all that sort of stuff, but you know, a phenomenal golf course. You could see the greens were spiking up a little bit. But
Yeah,
of course,
at the end, yeah.
You know, the rules changed a couple of years ago to allow us to be able to tap that down. So in effect, it's not going to make that much difference. So yeah, I think, you know, Justin's game, just his game from tee to green was just impeccable. Did he have 4 bogeys for the week or something?
Yeah, amazing.
5 maybe, I think it was. But yeah, where do you stop?
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things I was really impressed with him, something I read, that he kind of prides himself on a day-to-day basis, has an hour on TrackMan with the randomization function for his wedges. So he is just dialing in the wedge game. And I know he's done that for a few years now. He got critiqued, I think it was a few seasons ago, for his wedge play. And he's really dialed that in. And that's something, again, would you encourage a lot of amateur golfers or aspiring kind of professional golfers out there to do more of this kind of thing?
Oh, crikey, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just a case of standing on a range and doing it, you know, aiming at different pins. But of course, if you haven't got, you know, a ball flight analyzer of some description, whether it's, you know, Foresight or, you know, so TrackMan or FlightScope or Mevo or whatever you might, you know, happen to have, you know, but they can throw a randomizer in there, you know, then play to different flags with your different clubs. And, you know, I mean, I go up the range, you know, when I can, you know, I get 75 balls, and I would say that probably 50 of them are partial shots. You know, I think probably because it takes me that long to loosen up, but no, there 50 of them are random, you know, random partial shots. You know, I'm not hitting, you know, I'll loosen up with a 54, maybe a 50, just having some little pitch shots of half swings, dialing in what would be the half swing, and then whatever the distance is kind of irrelevant, if you know what I mean. You know, half a swing with a club is half a swing. If it happens to be, you know, if I'm trying to hit half a number, you know, then I'm going to struggle rather than let the half swing dictate and the club dictate the number. So, you know, if I can tweak the club, you know, to dial that number in. So, you know, as you know, my half swing with a 54-degree wedge invariably is a 50-yard shot. But then I'd also put it into a 48 to 52-yard shot because, you know, on a given day, the speed may vary by 1 or 2 miles an hour and subsequently produce the slightly different, you know, variances in terms of ball speed, stroke, distance. So, you know, when you've got, if you're just dialing in the actual movement pattern, so you get the half swing, you know, then when you're playing all the time like these guys are, ultimately you're able to do what you need to do and, you know, or optimize your numbers. And it's so much easier then. So, you know, when you can hit a shot to a certain distance, you get so much more comfortable playing that particular shot. You know, it's, you know, a 3/4 shot, you know, is so much easier. I mean, Butch talked about it a lot, didn't he? You know, about the fact that he has 3 swings with 4 wedges.
Yeah.
And, you know, it gives him 12 shots, and that's 12 shots of variable flight, but also variable distance, you know, so he can control what he needs to do. If he wants it to release, he can hit a slightly flatter flight on it and get that ball to release and do what he needs to do from there. And, that, you know, those things are key to being able to score if you get out of position. It's not so much scoring if you're, you know, in position, because these great players are scoring when they're in position. You can see that, you know, take Justin aside with a 5-shot win. You know, 15 under par is not to be sniffed at. 15 under par would have won probably, I'm going to say 75 of the Masters for sure. You know, and certainly a huge proportion of the 84 has been played. So, you know, there's some very good golf being played by a lot of good golfers, and I think that was also testament. The course didn't get beaten. I think the course only became susceptible to the damp conditions, not to the fact that it isn't strong enough to be able to cope with 350 yards drives, because even then, DJ had to hit woods into 8, to get the golf ball on the court, on the green. So I think on the Saturday he hit an iron, but it'd be a long iron. But he hit a wood of some description, probably a 5 wood. I think he's got 3 head covers in there. So when you're looking at it, ultimately, I think that's the big deal. The course held up nice and strong. I don't think they need to do anything, to do it as well. But wedge shots ultimately will save your score. And if you think about those wedge shots that he made his birdies on 15, that's made a big difference coming down 16, 17 and 18 to have that extra stride in your step, really.
Something that I was kind of screaming at the TV at, and I know it's something that's a passion of both of us, was that the players just struggled to control the spin. They were hitting too many spinning shots, and I know it's something that you've talked about a lot with myself and with clients, is that flighting the shot in there to give that spin control. Because people like Spieth, I saw Justin Thomas, Woods, there's lots of players who are struggling with the spin control because of the soft conditions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a strong argument for putting a slightly harder ball on in the bag, as we've talked about in the past. That said, it's a little bit more difficult these days because sometimes the harder ball, which may go a little bit further, can also spin a little bit more, as we've seen, with some of our ball testing in in recent weeks, months. But yeah, the flighted shot, players, you can't control spin in soft conditions. It's always going to get you. Miss hit a shot and it'll get you. So you can miss hit a shot in a way that's going to get a lot of spin on it, when you're trying not to. And these players are more inclined to hit the spinning shot than not, because of the way that they hit the golf ball. But yeah, when you know that the golf course is setting up for soft conditions, 13 plus stimp greens, I think your biggest challenge has to be, what are you going to do with the shots going in? I mean, the thing I loved about it is very rarely did you see just Dustin fire it over the back of the flag to back it up. On 13, he hit it where he had to hit it in order to take the creek out of play. And that's the course strategy that folk don't talk about enough. The core strategy is the really important things. The bit where you get from obviously your knowledge, you play, experience. But when you look at holes like 7, do not go big at 7. But that also means, look, how easy did Dustin make that bunker shot look, which, looked like he got to get it over a double-decker bus to get it out the bunker. But he made it look really easy in comparison to Sanjay being in the back trap with a whole load of green to work with. The problem is that the green was sloping like that. And maybe Sanjay was trying to hit the ball into the back of the green in order to get that backspin action that, would drag the ball back down towards the flag. And that's fine because we saw too many balls coming off the front of the green. But again, you're still playing for the lottery ticket of play rather than for the strategy of play. And, I just think that, it's a course that you can do it. And I think in practice rounds, it's a lot of fun, to be able to pull those shots off. But you get them wrong and you do look like a muppet. And, and more importantly, you can get yourself into trouble. You get yourself the wrong side of the hole, and we all know how difficult it is. I mean, DJ 3-putted on 14 on, I think his second round. And, he's inches away from the ball finishing. Well, he's not even inches away. I mean, he's literally, the ball one roll away from finishing, 5 or 6 feet away. and he's now got to, ride the precipice of, going off the green, as we saw Louis Oosthuizen do, from being on the green to off the green again, and then, or swinging around and finishing, 10, 12, 15 feet past the hole. Yeah. So, that's we know how brutal it can be, but it is a case of, playing to control, and, Dustin had the control. I mean, look, the shot into 14 yesterday afternoon, 13, 15, holes that we know notoriously can spin the golf ball back towards trouble or away from the flag. He's had it, he had it on a rope because he had control over the spin. So I think on one shot, I think I saw him pull the ball back, a good distance. Just shows you how you can, take control of the golf course, really, if you can control the flight of your wedge shots.
Yeah, I was a real fan as well of, I know we know him over here in Europe, but not so much in the States, but Dylan Fratelli, his short game, his chipping, his putting were class, I thought that he really
I think
good.
He had a momentary relax on 16, because that short putt that he missed on 16 was like, oh, what happened there? Literally, right, I've given him that. And it's like, how did he miss that? Right. So, looks the 70th hole of a major championship. He's not going to win, but, you would think he was trying on it, but a momentary lapse of concentration. But yeah, he was incredible. He's got a strange action in the way that he goes about things, and I think that's also endearing. Swings don't have to be perfect, as we know.
Doesn't look like he's going to fall over, doesn't he, every time he hits the golf ball?
Yeah, there's a couple that can do that. Yeah, he does look like very much like that. Scotty Scheffler had a weird one on 13. I don't know if you saw that one. Yeah, I think he nearly broke his ankle, I think, on the way through the ball, but managed to get it on the green. But yeah, there's more than one way to get the job done, as we know. And I think ultimately, he was able to get, a lot out of his game, and, he gets the ball far enough out there. I think that's the other thing as well. Abraham Answer, he didn't have the last round that he wanted. He didn't shoot in the 80s. We've seen that done several times in the last group before now. He shot, 76 4 over, not the round he was looking for, of course, but shows that, a low flighting shot, which, doesn't, numerous par fours where he's going in with a wood, fairway metal or, hybrid, shows you that he's not hitting the golf ball quite as far as these longer hitters, and yet he got a game to contend. Again, what's going to happen in April will be another issue altogether, because it will firm up, and the lower flighted shots, he'll run a little bit more as well, I know, so we'll counter that, but he's going to be putting in, so he's going to need to put some flight on his golf ball in order to control the ball going into those greens as well as US Open greens. So, that just shows the limits that some players may have, and these best opportunities were possibly this week, where the greens, the course was so soft as it was. But, let that player, prove me wrong, because, many a times they have, and, I'd be inclined to say, look, bring it on. It shows how good and how great these players are at getting the best out of what they've got, because we're not all blessed with 350-yard drives, and 330-yard carries over bunkers up a hill, with a soft fade. I mean, we're not all able to do that. It kind of leads us on quite nicely to, the Bryson DeChambeau show that didn't occur.
You know what it reminded me of? Like a movie trailer that you kind of watch and you think that film's going to be really good, and then when you actually go and watch the film, it is terrible.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
He really built himself up. Do you think that was his undoing? He really built himself up. The par 67 comment there. I'm just going to take a driver out there and hit a few wedges, and the numbers that were on the practice round, and Sandy Lyle going, I've never seen somebody go over the back of, I think the third, did he go over the back?
Yeah, with a 3-wood.
So did he hype himself up too much and put so much pressure on himself?
Yes and no. So my first bit of, I'll answer the first bit. Yes, look, he did it at the US Open and pulled it off. Told us what he was going to do and did it. So, why wouldn't he play the same strategy going into Augusta? The problem we've got with, look, if there is a place on earth as a golfer that has a spiritual context to it, then the history that sits around Augusta has it in bucketfuls and spades. I mean, and if there's anything going to spook you, it's what Augusta can do to you, especially around Amen Corner. And when you start on number 10, Amen Corner's right there in front of you, and you don't get off to the best start, and all of a sudden it's like, look, and fair play to the guy, because he finished under par for the tournament, and he finished under par. He kind of like scrambled himself around to get under par, sort of obviously made it in on the number, which we didn't think would happen at some point. But, he's got some tenacity to his game. And maybe the golf course was a par 68, 67, which is what he said, to him in principle, which ultimately would have given him a 20 under par title. Certainly the only one man played to par, if that's the case. And if it was, 68, then 16 under, nobody else did it. So, if that's why he truly felt, then, I wouldn't deny him that. But, that's because you would anticipate the par fives are more than reachable with a mid-iron for him. And we know that they are more than reachable for him with the mid-iron. But it's still, you've got 16 attempts to get the ball in play in the right place. And probably the only one that you would stand on there and say he's got a fair given on that would probably be number 2, because it is pretty wide. 15's not the wide fairway that it used to be, and you've got to create some bend on the flight of 13 to create a bit of width out of that. And 8, you've got to clear the trap. Well, he's going to clear the trap. We know that he's going to clear the trap, but you've still got to hit the fairway, and then you've got to hit a second shot, which is blind. So, those par fives, you may well be going in with a relatively short club compared to somebody else, but they are still thinking man's par fives. They're not just out there bludgeon and, get on with it. You get it out there 350 and you're a lock on 3 or 4. It's not the case at all, as he saw. He's gone for a shot at 13 on the first round, and the golfing gods have gone, have it. Look, you can say all you like, but you've gone in with a medium iron, but we've got your back on the the number 7 on your scorecard says
getting those bushes.
Golfing, didn't they? I mean, it was in fact maybe even 4 fingers, but I mean that's so. I think there are places where you do have to keep quiet, and I think Augusta's one of them. You can't get, Arnold Palmer's arguably the greatest golfer, certainly around at the time, was receiving congratulations going up the 18th hole, remember? And, he never won a major championship again. He took a double bogey, of all the people to take a double bogey on the 18th, he's hit the ball in the middle of the fairway off the tee shot. Then he puts it in the bunker, sculls it out the bunker, chips on 2 putts, and he loses the tournament. People are shaking his hand and congratulating him. Because, and he's lost his concentration, but, it just shows you that, even the greatest of players can have a lapse in concentration. And I think Bryson does get that way. And I hope that, the dizzy spells, if he's, that he was talking about, I hope they are nothing, sinister, and, that he possibly wasn't feeling well. Which is only testament to the fact that he scrambled himself around for the weekend anyway. Look, I suffer from migraines. I know what dizzy spells on migraines, are, and it does affect your ability to concentrate and focus on the golf ball, and you'll hit all sorts of bad shots if you can even get to a point of getting around the course. If that's what he's suffering from, then I really do, my empathy goes out towards him.
It was a tough week though, wasn't it, because he was on the wrong side of the draw really with Woods.
It looked like it.
That kind of
Yeah.
weather delay, then the early start, and Tiger was saying he was up at 3:15 for a
Yeah.
7:15 tee time, and you're thinking that must take its toll on you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've played competitive golf at that time of day as well, and you are up at those crazy times, and especially when the body gets older. Tiger's probably got to do an hour's worth of warming his body up. Massage and all the stuff that goes on with that. So ultimately, that becomes quite, a tall order. And Tiger wasn't driving 2 hours to get to the golf course. He'd been around the corner. So, for him to get up at 4 hours before his tee time to get his body into prep mode, before loosening up in the dark and, and all the stuff that goes with that, it is extremely difficult. But, that just shows you, Tiger played so well for day one, bogey free, 68, clinical as ever, swing looked incredible.
It looked immense. It's probably the best I've seen it in a long time.
And then all the omens were stacking up for, against him and Jack in 86. And, I thought that was, there was an element of a Cinderella story going on. But, I thought that 27 holes or 28 holes that he had to play on the next day was going to have its toll. Yeah. And of course it did. So was it Saturday? I think it was. He ended up.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was just there. He just petered out a little bit into the Friday, into the Saturday, and with the kind of light fading and everything else, it was a struggle. But I think Tiger, they will come back stronger for April. I think especially Bryson, he will be very analytical of his game, and he'll go away and look at areas that he needs to improve for Augusta.
He had a handful of shots which were, to some degree, some folk were probably looking and go, a little uncharacteristic. I don't think they're uncharacteristic. I think when the grass is long, your options are, in effect, handed to you on a plate. You know what your options are. When the grass is short and then damp, your options spiral out of, it's not just the options of the shots, because that's one of the issues that we deal with, but it's the options of miss. Now what could happen becomes escalated. So in effect, when you get the long grass, you're not likely to hit it too hard. You're likely to flop it short and, just flops in front of you. But when you get into the shorter grasses, then the option for flopping it short or to blade it across the green becomes a secondary option. And I think Bryson's kind of one-dimensional approach caught him out, and I thought at the beginning of the week that the golf that I was looking at, thinking the greens, I could tell that the green, I've played on overseeded golf courses, so I know where the transitions are. And when all the grass is in there, it's lovely to play off. It's a little bit sticky, but you know what you get. The ball sits up and, it's easy to nip the ball off. The problem that you've got is when there's Bermuda in there and, the ball can sit down just a little bit and then you're not sure whether you can use the bounce or the leading edge. Now, notice that Mickelson used the leading edge, played a lot of leading edge shots, got in there, hit quite stabby shots into the back of the ball. And I don't think he was found wanting around the greens as per usual. But your degree of precision has to be so good, and I don't think that Bryson is there yet with that. That's not to say that he won't be. I just think that, if there's an area of weakness, that if that is an 8 out of 10 area of his game, or maybe a 7 out of 10 area of his game. Nicholas wasn't great with it either, by the way, by his own admission. But he could get the ball up and down because he could rely on his putting. And I think the other thing as well is he doesn't have the science book on the greens that tells him exactly where that ball's going to maneuver and how it's going to do it and by what degree. And so he's computing in his head turns into feel. And so it's interesting, I watched a bit of the golf the early part of the week, and those comments were being thrown around, and by the Nick Doherty's and and the like, and they were all citing it. So can he? Will he? Does he know the course enough? And that's one of the interesting scenarios. It's possibly he doesn't. Maybe secretly he'll fly a drone in and get those numbers, so he's got them for for April. You know.
What are your thoughts on the Green Book? What are your thoughts on the Green Book? Should they be allowed, or shouldn't we have them?
Oh, what my thoughts on the Green Book's an easy answer. I think it's the best tool on the planet if you know how to use it. Should it be allowed? We allow yardage books.
Is it slowing the game though? Is it slowing the game? Is it slowing the game?
No, it's not slowing the game. Not at all. I think it's a ridiculous argument when somebody says, "Well, they slow the game down." Missing a putt slows the game down. So if you hole more putts, you are going to save more time on the greens, and it takes you to read the greens off from a green book. You've done a lot of that calculation already before you get in there. Look, DJ's taken a lot of time on the greens, and I think if anybody wanted to have a little word in his, shell-like, then it's like you need to speed up on the greens a bit. He's very clinical and he doesn't miss many putts. So ultimately you could say, well, actually, he's not taking as much time on the greens as some other players are collectively. And I think that's where the argument, sort of butts heads. He's not taking as much time on the greens because he's holding so many putts. It's when you don't hold the putts and you're doing that all the time that becomes an issue. And you stand over an 18-inch putt and you go through your aim point read. It's like, hello, we're serious. I know there's an element of habit, and we see Austin doing the reads, from aim point and the like. But there comes a point in time where you have to draw the line a little bit and say, look, we don't actually need to read this. Just get in there and knock it in. Well, there's so much at stake. We know what winning a major is all about, to folk. And, your careers are won and lost, and, tournaments are won and lost on a putt, and careers, won and lost on a tournament. So, or a championship. But I like that. I like the Green Book. I think the Green Book's a phenomenal tool. There's no bias towards it. I know the guys who developed the system to measure the green specifically. I think if you're allowing yardage books from tee to green, with the level of detail that they've got, then either you take it all out. I'd love to see a tournament where you've got none. Because I tell you what would happen, what would be really interesting, because I've played on golf courses without my laser, and I see no reason why a laser couldn't be used. If you want to speed up play, then I'll just allow a laser. You either got a book or a laser, and bang, zap, done, finished, and away you go. The number, and even allow the slope element on it. Just play a tournament and let the guys play with them, because I tell you what, they are allowed on the lesser tours, and I'm not so sure that they're contributing. The lasers are contributing towards lower scores. There's just a depth of talent that's producing lower scores, and of course the courses are in great condition. So we're playing on good greens on more regular golf courses these days, and so that contributes towards the ability to shoot lower scores. But I would love to see, the opportunities like, everybody let everybody use the laser. That will speed up play, because you've got a number straight away. And then the Green Books, again, the same thing. If you took the Green Book and the yardage book away and just let everybody use the laser, you would level the playing field straight away.
Yeah.
And that would, if there's any competitive advantage to the ability to be able to read a Green Book, and you do need to have a science degree to read a Green Book.
Looks very complex.
Well, but there's 4 or 5 different options now. So there's colours, there's arrows, there's numbers, there's pointers, there's sort of contouring. So there's lots of different ways that work with each player. So those contouring maps are are detailed and complex, but you would find, I can't remember which way around Padre has it now, but he's got a colour and a number, I think, if I remember rightly, or colour and an arrow, so he knows by colour the severity, and but you've got some guys that have got numbers and arrows and colours and arrows and colours and numbers and arrows, and that's when it looks complex. It looks complex to the guy who goes like, what on earth am I looking at here? And if you point it out, you go, oh, and you walk onto the green with that and you go like, oh, here I am now. Oh, that makes sense.
Mm.
That's literally how clear it is. Now, if you're not a visually minded individual, that's not going to work for you.
No.
It's not going to work. So, I like to see it. So for stuff like that, it becomes quite straightforward. And I kind of know if somebody's telling me what the numbers are, then, I understand aim point enough to be able to, sort of calibrate my reading to be able to say, right, well, that's 2%. So yeah, right, I've got my read, bang, 6 inches off the left and away I go. It's superb. And that speeds everything up to that point, because I'm not calculating the calibration. I'm not working out how much slope there is. I'm just going straight in there, pick the biggest number out and away I go. In printable, how much easier has that just become?
Yeah.
So that's going to speed everything up. But I think, I would love to see a tournament with no yardage books and no lasers, and just see how, you would talk about, you'd have a 6-hour round.
Yeah.
Because the indecision would be like, think about, how difficult 12 at Augusta. We know how difficult 12 at Augusta. We don't, because we've not played it. We've not been there. But, we know notoriously from the TV, players have, Tiger, I called the water shot, from the tee. How many times did he back off it? I just don't understand. He doesn't hit it in the back left corner. He's Tiger Woods. That's the bit for me. It's like, oh my word, Tiger's going to hit it in the water. How do you know he's going to hit it in the water? Because of the indecision. But he's Tiger Woods. I know. That's why I can't get this. Put it in the back left corner. Worst you're going to make is 4. And I can't believe he's going for the flag. He's missed it because he's not going for the flag. That's the thing you say. He's Tiger Woods. He's not going for the flag. Whatever's happened to the golf ball, he hasn't got enough club either. So, but if he's aiming at the middle of the green, he's put it in the bunker. That's the bailout shot. That bunker, that front bunker or the back bunker is the bailout shot, and that's the bit that I don't get. Then, it's like, right, okay. It's not what I expected to see Tiger do.
No. His recovery wasn't bad though.
It's just like makes us all feel great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But there's not many of them that have 5 birdies in the next 6 holes.
Classy. Yeah, exactly. Duff cap.
Absolute class, and grit and brawn to go, you know what, I'm going to finish. I'm sure I'm going to get back to level par. To finish under par. That's just very, very classy. So, he could have capitulated. He could have walked off. Nobody would have, I've won my jackets. It doesn't matter at this point in time, but his pride was strong. And that's the bit I think that bodes him well for April. I think that his lasting memory won't be the 10, because he's got something that supersedes it. It's 5 birdies in the last 6 following a 10.
Yeah.
And he'll just go back into that back left corner, middle of the green shot again, and just go like, you know what, I'm not going to be drawn into that again for the rest of my career. I can't remember Nicklaus ever putting the ball in the water.
No.
Not that I watched all of Nicklaus's golf. He may well have done, but, has anybody got any recollections of that can actually point us in the direction? Oh, Nicklaus put it in the water at some point, because no, I have no recollection that Nicklaus ever put it in the water. I've seen Watson do it. Obviously, Weiskopf did. Couples tried, and we've seen him do it as well. But ultimately, some of the these great players have all popped it in the water at some point. So maybe Nicklaus did, but no, I don't. That was a bit of a shocker. That was, but very impressive.
Good fun. Just a quick one before we wrap up. We've got our Duca del Cosmo competition finished last night. So will we be picking that winner today, selecting that lucky person? Thank you for everybody who's interacted with that post, and we've had lots of interaction and lots of really good feedback from that. So Andy will be picking that winner later on, and we'll put an announcement on our social channels.
We will, and actually, if we may well go live at Insta Live on that one, because we're
that'd be cool. Yeah, we could announce it on Insta later on. That'd be cool.
So if you listening, you get a chance to listen to this, we'll preempt it. But massive response to that, which was superb. We will have some more prize draws coming forward. We're going to do a Christmas prize draw as well, and we've got some cracking products lined up for you, and some experiences as well, which will be available for you to cash in on. So watch out for all of those announcements which will come with regards to when they start, and the rules, and maybe even we will get them done. We'll extend it across the pond as well, allow that to be the element of global. So we can certainly do something that will be a global experience opportunity for our international followers, which is really appreciative. Gareth, before we slip away, what's your thoughts on Rory McIlroy's performance this weekend? From a psychological point of view.
Psychological, lots of things going on, lots of change for Rory over the last 6 months with the arrival of his little one. And I think Rory I think some suggested just going and taking himself away, looking at his game, maybe looking at his approach, and almost taking the approach that Tiger did a few years ago of really trying to taper and peak for the major tournament. I think since lockdown, he's thrown himself into lots of tournaments, and that comes with travel. And if you're not playing your best either, like a little bit like Spieth's doing at the moment, it can become a grind, it can become a bit of a chore. I think he's got to go away and again, prepare a little bit better. That's what I'd suggest if I was part of his team. Let's look at the schedule. Let's plan a little bit better for next season, because there were signs of it there. He could have won it. He could have won it. If he would have had a better, I'd say, it's first round in particular, he's struggling at the moment with his first round strategy.
Yeah, so it's 28 over par for his majors played first round.
Yeah. But then is it something like ridiculous, like 56 under for the remainder of the week? Something crazy like that.
And obviously there's 3 rounds of golf in there. But, I mean, that just shows you, though, that the first round is he's putting himself under the most intense pressure in the first round. And you kind of just got to let it happen, let it go. Level par's not a bad round of golf. You don't play your way out of it, but, go and do whatever you're doing. And, I mean, what I will say is, Mike, a little bit like Tiger's sort of 10 and then five birds in the next 6. The impressive nature that, in 5 swings, he found his swing, in between his first and second round, having shot 75, and then, he then goes to shoot 66, which is just incredible. He was on the verge of missing the cut, and now he's back in contention, albeit, 6 shots back. And then what was his 67, 68 or something like that? So really, really good rounds of golf again. But had he shot 68, he's pushing DJ in the first round. He's pushing DJ all the way to the last hole, last putt. And you've got to think that that's a golf course that Rory McIlroy should be looking at, in the softer conditions, that 68. I'm not talking about mere mortals here. We're talking about major championship winners. For some reason, he's going into 2021. It'll be his 7th year without a major. That's quite a dry spell. Was he carrying too much pressure? Did he create the pressure himself? What is it that's stopping him from being the great player? Is it technical? It's certainly not from tee to green, so, of course I would have my opinions on and around the greens, but, and I see stuff, and, I don't understand the comments. I thought he putted really well. He probably putted better than he does normally, but he missed a bucket full of putts again, which have made a whole load of difference. Putts that, 3 putting from 6 feet, was it on 13 on Saturday, was just like, right, okay, not the first putt, and it was a dreadful first putt, and then, to even give himself the opportunity of missing, the second putt. But just, it was a dreadful, pitiful putt that, gave himself a missable return. I mean, he missed it like a dribble, and yet he'd run it 4 foot by and of course miss the return. So, I see traits of what he does, when he does miss them, and you just look at that and go like, oh, dear me. It goes back to his old sort of stroke tendencies, and, his whole putts, he gets on a streak, and he, clearly, he's hold some decent putts as well. But, I still feel that that's a weakness in his game that he could really address.
You know where to find us, Rory. That's the key.
Yeah,
Golf at andygorman.com.
Absolutely.
Reach out. You and Jimmy are friends, I think, on Facebook. Andy, aren't you? He's caddy, so he knows where you are.
Yes, he is. Yeah, interestingly. I just think it's, I could love to help anybody with my best bit of knowledge. If you want to improve your golf, and you can, that's the thing, you can. And it's not an insurmountable task. It's not impossible. Anybody can learn how to putt better than what some of the tour players are doing. And look, Augusta is different. Augusta's a completely different place altogether. You increase the slope and you increase the speed. Augusta's defense is on the greens, and, I'm not going to say that I know everything about every blade of grass at Augusta, because I don't. But it ultimately, starting the ball on the line at the right speed is what putting's all about. And when a player struggles to start the ball on line, even the line that they're aiming on, then there has to be a question mark over the methodology, and the principle of what you do to make it happen. But But again, what an incredible Masters. It is a Masters edition. It is a major. We will do these around the majors. I don't think the other tournaments warrant as much time as a major. And, I thought some of the spectacular views, yes, we missed the patrons, and yes, we missed some of the regular coverage that we would normally have. But some of the views from the drones, the footage from those drones was just incredible. So I know that you've been training on your drone, and
no pressure.
that we'll be expecting some incredible footage from some of the things that we'll be doing in the new year, mate, with your drone. But I think it's it's great to see, and I think with all due respect, with everything that's going on at the moment, whatever your opinions are of it, we got to see a 2020 Masters, and we got the opportunity to see Augusta as good as it can be, in very trying circumstances. So, I think they did a fantastic job, and we had a spectacle. And DJ has a green jacket, so so fair play to him, and I do wish him all the best going forward. He'll be a worthy champion, and I hope he gets a chance to wear the jacket for a little bit more than 5 months. But he doesn't look so good in green as he does in navy. But he's not going to say that right now. I've not got a green jacket either. So I know your little man's got a green jacket, but that's there's not very many of those around. But it's been great. Thanks, Gareth. I hope everybody enjoyed it. You know where you can find us. A special thanks to Duca del Cosmo for sponsoring last week's podcast, and also for the prize that they've awarded. We will announce in due course who has won, and you can look forward to getting your prize. So you can get in touch with us as soon as you do. And Gareth, thank you very much. You know where to find us. It's Andy Gorman Golf on YouTube and Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Clubface Golf, LinkedIn, and anywhere else that you think you can find me. I think I can hide from you. Can hide from if you mention putting, you're going to find Andy Gorman Golf. So and I say thanks for your support. If there's anything you'd like us to chat about next week, feel free, because I'm going to put my feet up from watching golf tournaments. We're going to get back to fixing golf swings, putting, and short game. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye for now.